What's new in the life of David Wright?
Nothing new and exciting to report, that's for sure. Just kids' sports, kids' school, and that's about it. Yeah. So it's good to be down in Florida for a couple of days for sure.
Did you meet with Carlos Mendoza today?
I did. Fantastic. He's obviously close with Willie, who I had a great relationship with. So, for me, it was great talking with him a little bit, and I think we're going to catch up a little more. He was, I believe, on his way to talk to you guys. But I think we're going to sit down in the office and just, that's kind of one of the things I miss the most is just talking baseball and having a guy like that to, just compare notes with, I think, is something that I really look forward to.
Sure. What did you think of making the cut to stay on the Hall of Fame ballot?
It was awesome. Incredible honor and something I don't take lightly. To be able to, stay on, means the world to me. And, just humbling, I think, is the first word that comes to mind. But, you look at some of the great players, on that list and to be amongst them, I think I said it, on the MLB network. But as soon as I got that piece of paper in the mail from the Hall of Fame saying that you're on the ballot, that went directly up into my office and something that I'm very proud of. David actually reached out and called me to introduce himself when he took the job. So I had a nice conversation with him then, and then chatted with him for about 5 minutes this morning when I got here, and just seems like an incredible baseball mind, and I think somebody that has certainly come up through the ranks and is one of, if not the best, baseball minds in the game. So to have him leading the way makes me feel confident in this organization, should make the fan base and the city feel confident as well.
How do you feel about the team?
I probably don't follow as in-depth as I did a few years ago when I had relationships with guys on the team. To me, from an outsider that, again, is pretty much an outsider because 7 o'clock games are 4 o'clock in California, which is right in the daddy time. It looks like they've greatly improved their depth, which I think was something that's been lacking the last few years. So I think depth-wise, they're in a much better spot. Now, you might not have the premier marquee names at the front end of that rotation that you had going into last year, but I think when you're playing 162 games and with the injuries throughout baseball now, I think that depth is going to come into going to be pretty important come the middle of the summer.
I know you talked about being grateful to still be on the Hall of Fame ballot, but there seems to be some writers who think you belong. And do you think you belong?
That's a good question. That's a question that I've never really, up until, a couple months ago, I've never really even thought about it. Because that's not the reason that, when I put this uniform on a daily basis, it was genuinely, yes, we did it for a living and we were compensated handsomely for doing that. But I enjoyed it. I loved it. And I tried to take that same mindset that I had when I was a kid, putting my uniform on Little League Saturday mornings. It's the same mindset that I had trying to put this uniform on a daily basis for the New York Mets. So, when I look back on it, I will say, it was an incredible, again, honor to make that 5%. But I also think that things are changing, and I'm not sure if it's in a way that people like or dislike, but, guys are, I think writers and fans and people in the game are starting to understand that, some of the best players, and this is excluding me, but some of the real greats in the game, didn't necessarily hit the milestones that a lot of the greats from past or different decades hit when they played. So it's an interesting debate, and a debate that I didn't really know much about until a couple months ago, but it's a fun one to have.
Have you talked to Brett or Mark at all just about the transition?
Well, I haven't talked to them in depth, but saw them both in there, and it's tough to say how somebody looks, but just through the drills and just their body language makes me think they're a little more comfortable this year, having tasted what it's like in the big leagues, and now it's more of, okay, we gotta have that sustained success that they've had in the minor league level and do it at this level. So in some ways, yes, last year was difficult for a couple of those younger guys, but in a lot of ways I think it's going to help them in the long run because in order to develop, you have to understand what failure feels like and how you bounce back from that failure to have success. It's one thing to always have success, but when you experience that first type of failure, it shows me at least what kind of player you are, being able to bounce back and get out of that little rut. And I think not that they had failure, but I think that they both, the guys that you mentioned, think that they're better players than what they showed last year, and I'm expecting to see it this year.
Will you sit down and talk to them again?
If they want. I mean, they got a lot of people in their ear. And I told David Stearns, and I told the organization, and Mendy, I told everybody that would listen that, feel free to utilize me as might be an asset, or at least I feel like I can be somewhat of an asset. So if they have questions or want to sit down and talk, feel free. I don't think I can help them much on the field with their swing or their fielding or any of that, but I think between the ears, dealing with New York, dealing with the ups and downs, the successes and the failures, I think I can be somewhat beneficial in that role.
So when David got hired, he called you to introduce himself. Was he trying to pitch you on a job? Or?
He kind of asked what I had interest in doing, but
you said daddy time?
Yes, I said, well, if you're asking about my 5-year-old softball team or my 7-year-old girls soccer team, I could talk about that, but I'm not sure how much help I'm going to be on the baseball ops side, and I think he's got it under control with the people that he's hired and himself. I think he was here this morning at like 6 o'clock, which is, you lead by example. I joke with him, but you lead by example. That's how you do it. You're here early, the last one to leave, and obviously he's got the reputation as one of the brightest minds in the game. So I got full confidence in that, with or without me.
Do you have any interest in getting back into it on the coaching side or front office at some point?
I guess never say never, but I like doing this little thing that I'm doing right now. Come down for a couple days, go back home to the family. Maybe see the team, once or twice, whether it's on the West Coast or, my family still likes coming to New York, especially my 5-year-old is named Madison, so she likes to take the picture every year in front of Madison Avenue. I think we'll probably continue on that trend for a little while where, I come down to spring training for a couple days, meet the team maybe out west somewhere, come to New York for a week, and see how that goes for a little while.
I guess, how do you see this trip annually? Is it kind of to be a sounding board for those guys, to see the guys? I mean, there's a lot of different things you could do in your time here. So.
Well, I'd like to think that, what I can do, again, on a very limited part-time basis is to kind of be a bit of a Swiss Army knife where I can do a little bit of whatever they think that could benefit the organization. I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity that I had for so long to put this uniform on. Not many players get to experience, being drafted out of high school, developed in the minor leagues, and then, be at the big league level for as long as I did with the same team. Again, if there's anything, whether it's on the baseball side, the business side, the sponsorship side that I can help with, I told them just let me know. And the last thing I want to be is, I remember playing, and you remember, so many people coming at you from different directions that sometimes, especially as a younger player, because it could put your mind in a bit of a pretzel. So, when you get older, you learn to be respectful, but in one ear, out the other. But for some of these young guys, especially these guys that are, coachable, they want to listen to everything and do whatever everybody says, and that can certainly not be beneficial sometimes. So I don't want to be a distraction either.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.